and women talk about sexual liberation and being able to have the same sexual experience as a man. The only problem is that women are at a much greater risk of contracting an STI than men. One of the most common STIs on the rise when it comes to modern women is, you guessed it, herpes. There are more than 500,000 new cases of people in the U.S. contracting genital herpes, with 61% of those cases being women. Officially, 1 in 5 women have genital herpes. So let's take a look at some of these women. My other question is, because we're going to predict, these are the women publicly saying they have herpes. What % of hot women have herpes?
I have herpes. If I want to have unprotected sex, I have to tell them. I don't know how this is going to affect my dating life.
Yeah, and so I've interviewed people that have herpes, okay? I've interviewed both men and women. And I think people should know out there, and this isn't good or bad. Oh, sorry, this isn't a good thing, but I can't change the way the world is. Most are not going to tell you. Look, I've interviewed I've interviewed men that have it, right? And out of the 3 that I interviewed, 2 said that they don't care. They don't use protection. They do not care. And if the girl chooses to not wear a condom, that's on her. That's how they feel. The one tells them, and he hasn't had sex in years. These are the choices. When people get this STD, their choice is to be sexless or to lie. And I'm just letting you guys know to be careful out there, because there's a lot of incentive to lie and do the wrong thing here. I'm not saying it's good, right? It's bad, but it just is what it is.
I can't give birth vaginally if I have an outbreak. I don't fucking know how I'm supposed to tell my parents this. It's also just fucking painful.
Okay, now I'm confused. Why are you telling TikTok and not your parents?
And I'm gonna have these outbreaks for the rest of my life.
It was 1983. I was 20 years old, and I had my first herpes outbreak. To this day, it was one of the most excruciatingly painful experiences I have ever had. All I could do was sit around in a beanbag chair with no underwear on. And when I peed, I'd have to pee through a cardboard
That's disgusting.
tube and dry myself with a hairdryer. It was so painful. And I was pregnant, so I was peeing a lot. Again, this was in the 1980s, and AIDS wasn't even a twinkle in sexually transmitted diseases' eye. So it was like literally the worst STD that you could get. And as you know, that shit stays with you for life. There was so much stigma.
I forgot what % get it by 50. It's pretty high, though. If you're in the dating market too long, you might get herpes. I won't lie to you guys.
Around herpes.
And you know what else is interesting? They say that women are more likely to get it, but women are more likely to get it because women are fucking more. I'm sure it's like easier for women to get STDs too, but let's be honest about this. Women are sleeping around more than men.
Then, because I had such a severe breakout, I couldn't go to work, and I trusted my boss when I gave him the information about why I was staying home, and he told everybody that I worked with. Everybody. And I worked with some old biddies who were extremely cruel and very uninformed and didn't want to use the same bathroom as me. I was also very concerned that I would not be able to have a vaginal birth. But when the time came and they cultured me while I was in labor, it was negative. I did end up having a C-section anyway because of other issues that were going on, but it had nothing to do with my herpes. In fact, I've never had a breakout impact any of the births of my 3 babies. What I can tell you is this: while it sucks, the first breakout is the worst, and they will improve over time. And acyclovir is an amazing, amazing drug that we did not.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Men always bail us out of bad decisions. So now the women are getting STDs, the men cure them, or essentially cure them, right? And I looked it up. You only have to legally tell people if you have HIV. herpes you can just spread like a mother. Unfortunately, guys. So be careful out there. I'm telling you, a lot of I know a different guy. He went on a date with a girl and she told him. And he basically told her, yeah, I can't date you. And because of him, he said, if you lied, we probably would have dated. Guess what she did with the next guy? She's engaged. He doesn't know. All the time. You could be in a relationship and not know. It's disgusting out there. I didn't make this market. Do you know what I mean? And people call me a doomer. I'm like, well, the blue-eyed, blonde-haired college girls are catching literal herpes.
I have back in those days, and it works that fast to clear it up. 40 years later, I rarely have a breakout. And when I do, it's nothing. It's just nothing. Herpes is really common. It's way more common than most people think. I probably know more women who do have it than don't have it. You are not a bad person just because you have herpes. And if you're worried about what your parents are going to think, don't tell them. It's not their business. The physical and emotional suffering that you're experiencing right now will get better.
And this is the thing. We have this revenge fantasy. These decisions will catch up to women. They don't. I'm telling you. This girl, right, that's crying here. Some guy is still going to do it. Mm-hmm.
Have these outbreaks for the rest of my life.
I can tell you this.
And she's going to turn into this girl who's married with kids. Yep. This woman had 3 kids with herpes. Someone did it. Let me see the comments on here. Newly diagnosed here. I'm learning to embrace it. I have so much anxiety every time I think about it. Thank you for the comforting information. Let's see what this girl looks like. Okay, she is not overly attractive. See, she's a mother. Let's see who else has it in the comments. Women really telling themselves in the comments. Let's see. The pup named Dior. See this girl married. She said, I forget I had it. There you go. Yeah. They'll be fine. And a lot of people are like, oh, Pearl, cope. No. I'm currently waiting on lab results, but currently having my first outbreak. You know what's crazy? That the guys told me some of the women that they told they had it still slept with them. I was like, okay, let's see. I just want to see how attractive the women are that have it. So this is another one with it. Yeah, see, you would see her at a club, right? You would think she was cute. You probably all would. 6, I'd say. 6, yeah. Herpes, then. She's in LA.
I have herpes.
Okay, let's see who else. Who else is in the comments? This girl said, I hope you're not going to lose sleep. My doctor said, I hope you're not going to lose sleep over this because it's so common. I'm seeing this mostly with some 6s. 5s, that's what I'm seeing. Let's see.
I have herpes.
Let's see who else is in these comments section. This girl, 10 years later, the first one was so hard, back-to-back outbreaks, but I barely notice it anymore. This is the look. And people, I mean, most of these women just look like normal. They don't look... Like a lot of guys will say, oh, you can tell. Could you? Really? To anyone who is feeling like this happens to me as well. I am not married to a man who didn't care at all. There is much hope. I barely have outbreaks. Yeah, that's what I've seen in the people I interviewed. I guess it's really bad. It gets less bad over time. Your body learns to fight it. Ugh, I have outbreaks, but mine happen on and around my lips. It's terrible.
I'm sorry.
Okay, would you guys be able to tell?
I came here.
There you go, fellas. All right, let's see what's next. As most of you know, I have been fighting on the front lines of the simp epidemic for years, but I need to tell you about a quiet weapon being ratcheted up against men that is rarely talked about. It's not just the relentless anti-masculinity propaganda and OnlyFans hoes causing the societal issues that we discuss on this show. Did you know that the average city's tap water contains trace pharmaceuticals and endocrine disruptors? This often includes estrogen from birth control. The average adult consumes a credit card worth of plastic every single week. That's 5 grams of plastic a week on average. So it's no wonder that the average male's testosterone is half of what the average was 50 years ago. Testosterone levels decline 1% a year, and without a course correction, we are headed towards extinction. No matter how based you are, you need to be naturally boosting your testosterone. My friends at Chalk, CHOQ.com, are on a mission to save mankind from extinction by boosting your vitality. Chalk's Male Vitality Stack contains premium and potent herbs clinically studied to naturally boost your testosterone levels, sperm count, and overall vitality. Just one of the many ingredients in the Male Vitality Stack was studied in double-blind human clinical trials to boost total testosterone 20% in 90 days. When you boost your testosterone, you'll have more mental clarity, you're more capable of making decisions and taking risks. Having high testosterone will also affect your pheromones, so women will find you more attractive subconsciously. Get the Chalk Male Vitality Stack right now on Chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. Use my name Pearl as your coupon code and you'll get 25% off site-wide on Chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. My name Pearl is the discount code. All right, let's see who's got it next. You guys would be able to tell? Really? You could tell the difference? That's what I was in a space and there was a guy in the space talking about how he dated a woman who they were about to hook up, and she told him. And there was another girl in the space. Well, you just date thoughts. Da, 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 da. Yeah, like you could, like. Whereas I like to show the faces because you're not going to know. Does this woman? You'd be able to tell, really?
I have herpes. You heard me right. And I'm simply done allowing that statement to cultivate shame for me anymore. I'm done. I contracted herpes when I was 19 years old. I am 28. And I spent almost 10 years carrying around this heavy, heavy load of shame surrounding the fact that I have HSV. I contracted herpes from a man that I trusted. I thought we were dating. Obviously, my standards were very low back then. And I had asked him,
wear a condom always, even with your boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm telling you guys. Well, it's a calculated risk, right? I'm not going to say do or don't. It's your sex lives. But if you're living together, okay, you're kind of more guaranteed. But out of the 3 that I interviewed that had it, 1 got it with a condom. It's something that could happen to anybody. And you can see that with the difference in women that I'm showing on here. The guys that I interviewed with it, 3 different races. I wouldn't have known. The women that I interviewed, most of, because men are more honest, so I found more men. It's interesting. There's more women talking about this on the internet. But when I was trying to find people like personally to interview or like just on Twitter, telling them to call, whatever, I found more men willing to talk about it.
if he had been tested, but I never verified any test results. And I want to also add that while I take accountability for the fact that I should have verified the test results, at 19 years old, I was extremely naive. I was raised in a very fundamental Christian household where I received 0 sex education. The extent of
blah, blah, blah. The internet is available. We all, can we... I think sex ed is weird for adults to be teaching children. But at some point, you got to be accountable. The internet's available. You can Google this stuff. Yeah.
sex education that I received was one time my mom sitting me down and saying, "Hey, Lana, we need to talk about the birds and the bees." And I got really embarrassed. And I was like, "Oh, I already know." And she said, "Okay," and walked out of the room. That was it. I was pulled from sex ed in school. So my education surrounding sexual health was extremely limited. And also the way that I viewed myself in relation to men at that point was already very skewed. So I didn't question him at all when he said, yeah, I'm tested and I'm clean. Finding out that I had herpes was easily one of the most devastating days of my entire life. I can't even explain the feeling of defeat and helplessness that you feel when you know that you have a virus that is going to impact the rest of your life and the way that you engage with men. For so long, it really made me feel like I wasn't even worthy and I couldn't attract a quality partner. And I was so
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes your dating pool market way down unless you lie. And that's why I try to really emphasize, I really try to stress that, because I'm telling you guys, people with it, their choice is to tell this very personal information on like a first or second date, right? Or their choice is to lie. Most of them lie. I had a different friend. He went on a date with a girl who told him second date. And he was kind of mean to her, right? I mean, he was like, oh, that's disgusting. Da, 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 da. And I told him, I'm like, look, you are lucky she was honest. You are lucky that she was honest, because most of them lie. You got very, very, I mean, he was probably fine, but I can understand his reaction. It is gross. But I'm telling you, I've done these interviews. They're lying. A lot of them.
so much seeking acceptance that I would literally date any man that would accept me as soon as I had, told him that I had the virus. I did not tell my friends for almost a decade. The only person that knew outside the men that I slept with was my sister.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. These people with it, they have to run the risk that you're going to tell other people. And most of them, I mean, my friend told me about his date. So now their reputation's on the line. What's the incentive? I don't try to do right or wrong. I try to say, what's the incentive here? Now, there's an incentive for these women to go on the internet because they get attention, they get to not feel alone, and they can build a herpes brand. So,
And the partners that I chose post herpes diagnosis were very low caliber, very low quality. My sense of self-worth had dropped so low because of the fact that I had herpes. It was already low to begin with, let me be clear. But contracting herpes made it substantially worse. And the partners I then dated throughout my 20s, rock bottom. My standards were in hell. And I recently have been going through a big journey of really just trying to take ownership of anything that brings me shame. And this is one thing that I knew I couldn't avoid talking about. I truly thought that I would take this information to my grave. I hid this so deeply from my friends that even when I would travel with girlfriends, I would put the medication in a separate bottle because I didn't want anybody to see the antibodies, like medication bottle in my bag. But I just ain't doing that anymore. I have herpes. It's a part of who I am. It does not change my value, my worth.
it does significantly, actually, in the dating marketplace. I'm not saying you're not a nice person, but in the dating marketplace, much lower. Much lower.
It is simply a virus that I contracted that I now have in my body. It's very dormant. I haven't had an outbreak in years. Really, the only way it impacts my life now is the fact that I have to tell partners, I have to disclose it. And I recently started dating somebody new and I realized I'm still getting tripped up having the disclosure conversation. So I decided I'm just going to take ownership of it. I released a podcast episode telling the whole world I have herpes, and now I'm here telling you, if you have herpes, you are not alone. You are not less worthy.
You are. But I mean, let's see. I met a girl and on her second date, she told me she had it. I was able to make a choice. Now she's my wife and I have 2 beautiful children. What an L. I was diagnosed today and I cried for hours. Okay, well.
Best friends?
Reverse girl just isn't for me. You see my rolls and I see your toes and throw at gang signs.
Best friend?
Oh, sorry, that's why. All right, let's see who else is in this comment section. And you know what's so funny? It says, I've been getting cold sores and fever blisters since I was 9. I was told I got it as an infant and I was most likely kissed by someone infected. So that's like HSV1. Like the cold sores in the mouth, that's way more common. And they blame it on someone kissing the kid, but it's more likely that the mother had it. But we're not having that conversation. Who else has it? I went out with a girl that had it for years. When it was active, she'd say we'd have different fun. I never even got it after I got tested. Wow. Actually, that is the people I interviewed. The guy said a lot of the girls that they hooked up with didn't get it, or they never, like one guy gave me his stats. He said he hooked up with 100 women, no protection, did not care, no medication. I'm telling you, these guys are demons. And he said maybe 4 girls got it out of 100. Now, I don't know if maybe some got it and didn't tell them they're sleeping with multiple guys. Let me know you guys' experience in the comments. My story's identical to yours. I also got it at 19. Let's see these pictures on this one. No, I don't see any. Yeah, I'm 50 years old and contracted it from my husband. He knew he had it before we married and never told me. 2 years later, I found out he had it. Guys, I'm telling you, be careful out there. I have HSV too, and I'm still dealing with it. It's from a man I trusted and loved. Oh, of course. Yeah, right now, so. Oh, wait, hold on. This is what she looks like. We gotta. Tell me if you guys think you could tell with these women. I don't think I would be able to guess. Here's another one.
I have herpes, and this is how I disclose to my partners. Personally, I have HSV 1 and 2, and let me just tell you, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Really important that you educate yourself around it so that having these conversations make it a little bit easier. Also, with practice takes time. So the ways that I disclose is number 1, having it immediately in my bio. Keep my
HSV 1 and 2. Yeah, so now she can make a job off of herpes. That's the incentive to talk about it on the internet. TikTok into being worshipped and nothing less. HSV 1 and 2. Have you guys seen this on the dating apps? Because, I mean, you got to put yourself in their shoes, right? What are they going to do? They're going to A, lie. That's probably the most common. 2, just put it on the dating app so they don't have to have an awkward conversation. Or 3, what I've heard is they might hook up with someone once and then tell them. Throat goat it, then tell them. Brutal, man.
Bumble bio here. My Tinder bio, same thing. And this is my field. It's a
Yeah, dinner dates, late night chats, into mindful, blah, blah, blah. If you called me a good girl, it's game over. I'm a sex educator with a very public following, but I like to keep my personal life private for now. HSV 1 and 2.
a bit more descriptive, if you catch my drift. Next, I usually have a conversation once I've matched with someone. Usually this conversation is about our interests, our desires, and also sexual health. I either do this on app or once we've switched to texting before we meet up in person. Because I personally don't want to waste my time with someone who doesn't want to be with me because of my herpes status. And this is an example of a recent text exchange.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know that I have HSV 1 and 2. I take Valtrex every day, though, and I've never transmitted it to a partner, just for aware. Let me know if you have any questions. Hey, I totally get it. Sounds like you have just moved over after the lockdowns ended. Oh, and as long as you've got it under control, that's cool with me. We have this revenge fantasy. Somebody's going to do it, guys. All these porn stars getting married, a lot of them have herpes. Things just started to open up. I moved to Austin in 2021. And yes, I did spend a few years. What's your STI status? When did you last get tested? Have you lived anywhere else other than Austin and the Bay? That's good to hear. It sounds like it's quite common anyway. I've never had an STI before. I've spent too much time in relationships. I did get checked like a month ago and it was all clear. How about you? Guys are so desperate for vagina, man. All right, let's see the next one.
Okay, so
you know what? The average I've seen from the women in the comments and the women on screen, I would say is 4 to 6 is my rating for the herpes women. I haven't really seen a super attractive woman. But the thing is, super attractive women can go on the internet and just get attention. They don't have the incentive to do a cause. They can just be hot. I don't know if it's... I think it's more common with mids, because mids, I would say, are sluttier. They got to put out more in order to compete with the hot women. So let me watch.
So one of the most heartbreaking things that I see with those of us who get herpes is that people will just like completely take themselves out of the dating world. Two things actually. Removing yourself from the dating scene, and the other one is just like deciding that you're going to settle for anyone who accepts your herpes status. I want you to think about like if you had herpes orally, which I know people who have it orally can struggle in their own ways. And literally most humans have that, whether they get cold sores or not. Like I probably have it too. But when you have it orally, you wouldn't think about the fact.
I'm so tired of people with herpes trying to convince me that everyone has it. It's really common, but speak for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, could you just... some of us did not get it, all right? We don't...
Like, you can never...
Like, I've never had a cold sore in my life. So, yeah. So don't... Like, I hate it when they said, let's normalize it. Look, I think that some women... Because some of the people I interviewed, like, one guy got it from his wife of 10 years. The other guy was a manho. So I know that some people just take an L on this, right? I mean, one guy wore a condom, allegedly, that's what he said, and he still got it. And so am I going to say that I think some people can have it and maybe they weren't that promiscuous. They just, trusted someone they shouldn't have. However, why would we want to make it more normal? Like, why would we? Nobody wants to do that.
Ever make out with someone again, you can never date someone again, no one's going to accept you, and you have to settle. And that's because we don't stigmatize it the same way or even understand it the same way, but we are just as much at risk of getting it genitally from people who have it orally. Unless you don't engage in oral, but like... You have to remember that with herpes, you are not contagious most of the time. And I know that we think about and fear the whole viral shedding thing, but we only shed an estimated 5 to 20% of the year. And that varies from person to person. It depends on how often you get flare-ups and just your specific immune system. And shedding is the one that's hard to get our head around because like we can't really control it and we don't necessarily know when we're shedding. That's why we disclose to partners. Because at any point in time, there could be a small risk, but that 80 to 95% of the time, you're not contagious and you're not shedding. So the chances that someone is going to get herpes from you, even if you're not taking any precautions, is still pretty low. Most people are getting in trans.
I do think that's true based on the research I've done. But the thing is, like, if you don't have it, you don't really want to get it. No, I guess there's guys that still will do it, but I think the general sentiment of people that don't have it is that I do not want to risk getting it. I don't. I had this other friend. I get a lot of stories doing my job from different types of people. So I always kind of have to be broad. I never want my sources to be, doxed, leaked, whatever. But I have an older guy. He's been dating forever. And I don't know if he has it or not. I never straight up asked him, but he told me a story of he took a girl on a date and she said, I like you, but I really have herpes. I like you, but I have herpes. That's what she said. And he said, well, there's some precautions we could take. And I looked at him, I'm like, you did it? And he's like, well, I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. He was older. Maybe he had it too. I don't know, but it's like, damn.
Transmitting herpes, not knowing that they have it and not recognizing their symptoms when they get them because they can be so mild. You as a person who's aware of your status can do so much to protect your partner that someone who's unaware can't. Like avoiding activity when you feel a flare-up coming on, and sometimes you can feel you're shedding if you're getting like symptoms prior to a flare-up, but the flare-up just never comes. You can assume you're shedding then. Doing that reduces the risk a whole lot. Also, just like being on antivirals daily, which some people are, reduces it greatly. Using protection, even though it's not foolproof because it depends on where you have it, but that still reduces the risk greatly. People still kiss and make out and date with people who get cold sores, even knowing that they get them. There's absolutely no reason that you should remove yourself from dating just because you have it below. You can do and enjoy everything in exactly the same way. And just because there's more of a stigma based on where you have it, That's only going to weed out uneducated, ignorant partners. But trust me when I tell you that most of them, offline and off TikTok troll culture, don't care. I have pulled the hottest people since getting herpes and since being single with it. It doesn't make a difference, but your energy and perspective around it will.
Yeah, what? That's nasty. Okay. Well, let me know what you guys' experience has been, if you guys have it or not. If you know anybody that has it, do they lie? Are they honest? What have you guys seen out there? Because that's where I get the most information, is people that tell me their stories. So let me know in the comments, like the video on your way out, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.